know it looks a little lonesome around here today, but that's all the better to get us a close-up look at the track itself. And we'll also have a special update on a new development at Pontiac. But first, Steve Evans has a story on just some of what professional drag racers go through to campaign those crowd-pleasing funny cars.
Hawaiian Punch funny car owner Roland Leong knows as well as anybody that NHRA Championship drag races are won one step at a time. Two cars go down the track, but only one comes back to race again. Roland, just before that last run, I could see that you were concerned about more than just your own car.
Yes, Steve, that left lane here at this World Finals hasn't been very good this whole race. And a lot of cars have had a lot of trouble. So what I've been doing is just kind of watching and see how good the other cars are running and where the other crew chiefs have placed their cars on the starting line and which ones have got down the track and have not. I know the ones that are capable, that can run good, and that's the ones I go by.
Then you ran back and you told Rick something. What was it, Roland?
Well, I just told him that the last two cars ran fairly decent for that lane, which we thought was very good. So we knew kind of how we had the car set up and thought we could get down through there pretty good ourselves, which we did.
So he knew he could apply a little more power.
Well, there's only one way you can step on a pedal, and that's all the way down. Sometimes the driver, and Rick has been very good at that, as far as saving the car when the car has been wrong. I start the car myself because I know what to look for, more or less. I tuned the engine a long time ago when we were a lot younger, and as far as the sport was concerned, I was a crew chief, and I guess I never grew out of it.
Each round of competition eliminates another opponent, but it doesn't get easier as you get closer to that final showdown, because every 250-mile-an-hour run of the 3,000 horsepower nitro-burning funny car takes its toll on the engine and the crew. The car ran well. Rick drove it tremendously, but as soon as you get back to the pits, the real labor begins.
Yes, Steve, what we do, there's a lot of work that has to be done. We tear the engine all apart, change 8 pistons. We have to adjust the clutch, cool the clutch, put the engine back together. If we have hurt some valves, we have to take the heads apart, do a valve job on that certain cylinder that we think is hurt. I inspect the pistons in the trailer and come out and decide what we're going to do for the next run.
And usually all of that has to be done in an hour and a half.
Nowadays, the rules state an hour and a half. But then again, we can change motors in that time, so this is really not that big of a deal.
And you're going to do that even if nothing appears to be wrong with the motor?
Yes, Steve, we have done that for the last 2 years. Every run, approximately, we probably make close to 200 runs a year.
It takes a lot of boys to get it accomplished.
Yes, and I'm glad to have a pretty good crew here, besides Rick Johnson himself, who drives the car. Also a good mechanic, good worker. I got Donnie Peterson and Glenn Mikers, and between the 4 of us, we seem to be able to get the job done.
You know what else I've noticed? Your Hawaiian Punch, the executives, the people you work with, they're out here as well. I mean, they'll shine up the wheels, they'll drain the oil, they'll do anything you ask them to do.
Oh, yeah, they're very helpful. We got a couple area managers. We got people from San Francisco, right from Del Monte. And they're really behind us and our racing team, which makes us feel very good.
And the work of the racetrack is one thing, but there's also the labor of hauling this 18-wheeler, all these people and parts all over the United States. How many miles a year and how many races would you run?
Well, the last time we had a weekend off was Easter Sunday. But yes, we run a lot. We probably run 35 weekends out of the year, out of the 52 weeks a year. We do a lot of things for our sponsor, Hawaiian Punch, doing different displays in different stores. So you're right, it is a lot of work hauling this 18-wheeler all around the country, trying to keep the race car prepared like it's supposed to be, the truck and trailer clean like I like it to be, and doing all the promoting, too.
Well, Roland, you pour all these hours and all these dollars into 5 seconds of what you hope will be productivity. It must feel awfully special when the one light comes on in your lane.
Well, it feels very special, Steve. That's something that, unless one experiences, I guess it's hard to explain. that's when you know all your hard work for 3 or 4 days that we've been here late at night has all paid off. And I guess after that, it's time for Hawaiian Punch.
Bob, what an impressive facility you have here.
Thank you very much, R.C., and welcome to Indianapolis Raceway Park. We're very proud of the facility.
Thank you. How large is it?
Well, it's over 300 acres. It involves a tremendous amount of land use. There's parking, pit area, 7 gates into the facility, just tons and tons of wire and fence, and I've really never counted it all, but I'm sure there's miles and miles of fence here.
Well, you know, I get so caught up in race day, I'm sure all fans do, that you kind of forget the real details of the track. Could you lay that out for us?
Well, I guess down to the south of us here, you'd find the staging areas, which is where the race really is built and starts. And from that area, they proceed up under the Winston Bridge there and into the water box, and the tires are cleaned off, and the excitement starts to build. At that time, on the signal from the starting line personnel, they clean their tires and heat their tires up, and they roll up here to the starting line area where you'll see that we have a concrete pad here, which is called the launch pad. At that time, then, they're in position by the starter. The Christmas tree, it sits right in that general area, comes down. It has a capability of a pro start or a handicap start. At that time, the cars leave the launch pad, make the quarter-mile run.
You said the launch pad, and what makes it different than the rest of it?
It's concrete, and for durability, easier to clean up, builds rubber better than the asphalt.
Now, the fans seem to be quite a ways removed from the track.
Yes, they're back 100 feet, and you'll notice the twin guardrails along the edge of the facility.
Now, on the end of the track, say something goes wrong, a parachute doesn't open, what happens?
Well, we have a sand trap down there, which would be the first thing that the car would use. After that, we then have a large nylon catch net similar to what is used on aircraft carriers.
I'll tell you another part, because of the business I'm in, but this press box is really impressive.
Well, yes, we're really proud of Parks Tower, and this tower was constructed and dedicated in 1983, consists of race control where the races actually run from, and the timing, scoring, and announcing is done in that portion of the building. Also, one of the I think, finest press centers in the world is also alongside race control. Consists of multi-level so that everybody has a good line-of-sight view. And then, of course, the key factors in the building are the 8 corporate suites.
You know, Bob, a lot of people spend a lot of energy on making the NHRA races safe.
That's right, R.C.
And we're going to take a look at some of those folks right now.
The first rays of morning light, and a team of men is already at work. There is no roar of engines, no one to take note of their presence. Still, they move with quiet efficiency, knowing their work will make this track safe for drivers and fans alike. They are the men of the Safety Safari. Much of the Safety Safari's work is done before the first race car starts its engine. Fire equipment is tested, guardrails inspected, traction compound applied to the track, equipment moved into place. Hundreds of details, each of them important to the Safety Safari. In the 3 decades of its existence, NHRA drag racing has evolved from primitive housing and jerry-rigged equipment to the razor's edge of space-age technology. NHRA founder Wally Parks remembers how it was in the beginning.
The NHRA was actually organized in 1951. It basically was a car club organization that had activities of every nature except racing. But we soon found that racing had to come into the picture, so in 1953, we introduced our first sanctioned event. The first race that was held here at Pomona in 1953 was what we called the California Golden State Championships. And looking at the facility here, it was entirely different because the fairgrounds were entirely surrounded with orange groves. There was simply a little 2-lane strip that went down the center with a pump house at one end of it. It was about as primitive a setup as you could imagine, but the enthusiasm was there. Incidentally, it cost 50 cents to get in and run your car. The following year, we sent the safari out to spread the word of what we had determined and worked out in California into the other areas. The Safety Safari from the very start was actually the Johnny Appleseed campaign for drag racing. and it took the news of what was going on and demonstrated what was going on into these many areas.
The original Safety Safari crew was comprised of 4 men whose enthusiasm for safe, competitive drag racing was unrelenting. The first man hired and the leader in those years was Bud Coons.
Wally had the idea that we could, in fact, carry the message all across the United States if we had somebody full-time. At that time, they very little money, and one night at the board of directors, everybody looked at everybody else, and then I felt everybody looking at me, you know. Suddenly, I was elected to quit the police department here in Pomona, and at that time, I was a sergeant, in charge of their traffic division, and devote full time to working with the young people all across the country. The idea was that we could put a crew on the road then and go all across the nation and teach the gospel, if you will, about speed and safety and the inspection and working on the cars to keep the safety aspect up. It was a fantastic program. Wally put it together and conceived it, and it worked.
It worked so well that communities across the nation were swept up in the excitement of the new sport. Civic leaders worked closely with local car clubs to make drag racing safe and enjoyable for everyone. What had begun as a vision of a few men was now a reality. Today, safety is still the key ingredient of NHRA drag racing. That concern is reflected in the equipment used by the Safety Safari. A man who knows the importance of quality is NHRA's Director of Competition, Steve Gibbs.
All your equipment, especially the vehicle, has to be ready to perform. Not going to do you any good to have a car on fire going down the track when your truck's sitting there unable to start. So we obviously go with the best possible products, and the Ford trucks have served us very, very well. We're very pleased with them. They've been nothing but of excellent service, and we're just proud that they're a part of the Safety Safari operation. Now, they like to be ready for any occurrence that may come up, and you never know when it's going to arise. I like to be prepared with the engines running in the truck, a man in a fire suit ready to go, all the firefighting equipment checked out and ready for any occurrence that we might be faced with. It's about the time you think everything is going smooth, that's about the time you run into a situation, and you have to be constantly prepared. Well, I recall the situation with Mike Dunn and John Forrest at the 1983 Gator Nationals, and it was elimination run, and right at the end of the run, apparently when everything was under control, John Forrest had a severe fire. And at the same time, the safety crew, they were ready to roll, and they were right with Forrest all the way. Turned out things were fine. Forrest came out. Both the equipment and the personnel did their job well.
NHRA and Ford Motor Company share a commitment with the men of the Safety Safari, a commitment to the future of safe and exciting championship drag racing.